I want to thank everybody for being here and congratulate you on being here by 10. I know it's kind of a challenge with the parking, so we're going to allow a few more minutes for people to find places outside and come on in. So, but we'll be starting in about 5 minutes. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Wesak 2024, the Taste of Liberation. And my name is David Kerrigan. I'll be facilitating. We'll be having meditation and chanting and inspiration for living life. And in Buddhism, the sense of time and place is considered to be very important. And here we are in the lovely sanctuary of Ventura Center for Spiritual Living, and one of VCSL's practitioners, Mary, is going to give an invocation.
If you're comfortable, close your eyes, settle into your seat, feel your feet on the ground, the center of your heart. And we invoke the divine energy of Buddha and of the ancient wisdom that is so present still here today. We feel that connection to this energy, this essence of wisdom and compassion, knowing that that is in each and every one of us as well. And we recognize our Buddha nature, we recognize liberation, we recognize the teachings of the Buddha today in this service. We celebrate the enlightenment and the birth, the enlightenment and the passing of the Buddha, knowing that we are still learning and receiving all the wisdom that we need and all the compassion we need to live full and healthy and delighted and liberated lives. And so I'm grateful for this service and this time of gathering, people here and people throughout the world who are celebrating Wesak today. With a grateful heart, I release these words into the law of manifestation, knowing that all is already done and so. And together we say, and so it is.
Thank you. So I would like to start off with a little pair of chants in Pali. And Pali is the language of the oldest Buddhist texts, not very familiar to the modern mind, but that's okay. And I think if you don't feel okay with doing the Pali, the line is translated right after that into English, and maybe you can join in on the English part. Okay. Aparuta tisam amatasa dvara ye sotavantu pamunchantu sadam. Flung open are the doors to the deathless. Let those with ears to hear commit to faith. Seyatapi bikawe mahasamudo ikkaraso lonaraso evam ko bikawe ayam dhamma vinayo ikkaraso vimutiraso. Just as the great ocean has a single taste, that of salt, in the same way, this Dhamma and discipline has a single taste, that of liberation. So before we do the next chant, I just want to give some thoughts on what it means. This is the three refuges, and in Buddhism, one takes refuge in three things: the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. And what are these things? So the Buddha is, in one sense, the person who lived over 2,500 years ago and is said to have discovered the lost path to full peace and liberation. And out of compassion, he taught it for 45 years until his final passing. So that's in the historical sense. But what about for us today? Well, certainly we can be grateful to him for having done what he did, and we have a record of it, and we can follow the path today ourselves. But even more than that, the Buddha is awareness, awakeness. Buddha literally means awakened one. And when we take refuge in our own awareness, our own presence, our own open, unlimited consciousness, we're most truly taking refuge in the Buddha. So I really want to invite people to just take a moment to notice. I'm aware. Who knew? I'm right here, right now. And fundamentally, there's no difference at all between us and the Buddha. Underneath all of the obstructions and confusion and nonsense parading through our minds, all of our craving and clinging and ignorance and hatred and greed and you name it. Underneath that, when all that falls away, when all that dies away, there is pure, compassionate, blissful awareness. So that's the true taking refuge in the Buddha. And then refuge in the Dhamma. The Dhamma is a very hard to translate word, but maybe the best translation of it is reality. And historically, the Dhamma is the Buddha's teaching. But much more importantly, it is the reality to which the Buddha was pointing, which is outside of time and space. It's to be realized by the wise within themselves. Whether or not there's a Buddha to teach it, it's true. And we can have openness to that Dhamma, to that reality that includes both all the changing world, the imperfect world, the world of confusion that we see around ourselves, but it also has nirvana, nibbana, the cessation, the extinguishing of the fires of suffering. That when we train our awareness, we can actually tune into this dimension, this reality that is ever present. It is never not there. So right here, right now, you don't have to wait for it or anything. It's right here, right now. And And once you start paying attention to it, you can notice all the different times where the craving and clinging that tends to drive our suffering drops, sometimes just for a second, but a second is good. And we experience a sense of peace. There may be a little bit of turmoil, but even in the turmoil, we can have peace. Don't have to go anywhere for it. It's right here, right now, wherever we are. And as we continue to practice, then the peace can deepen. And that sense of awareness, that kind of the clearing away of the ignorance and the hatred and the greed and the confusion and all that, opens you up to this nirvana consciousness. It's like, oh, peace is here all the time. All the time. Who knew? And then finally, there's taking refuge in the Sangha. And Sangha is the assembly, and on a conventional level, it is it's sometimes just thought of as monks and nuns. Sometimes the Buddha referred to the fourfold Sangha of monks and nuns and male and female lay practitioners. But it's all the people who are on the path, or maybe have completed it, and they've let go of the last vestiges of clinging to self. But probably nobody's here is quite there at the moment. At least nobody visible here. But that's quite all right. And then at a deeper level, Sangha can be thought of as the community of practice in action. And we can join it in a flash, simply by practicing. So that's the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, and so I invite people to chant along with me. I go to the Buddha for refuge. I go to the Dhamma for refuge. I go to the Sangha for refuge. A second time, I go to the Buddha for refuge. A second time, I go to the Dhamma for refuge. A second time, I go to the Sangha for refuge. A third time, I go to the Buddha for refuge. A third time, I go to the Dhamma for refuge. A third time, I go to the Sangha for refuge. So at this moment, I want to have a little bit of meditation time. We'll meditate for about 10 minutes and give everybody a chance to just sort of enjoy that Buddha awareness of the Dhamma brought together in Sangha. Allowing the eyes to fall closed or partly closed. We allow our awareness to come to the breathing, the awareness of the breath coming in and going out. As the breath calms, you may notice pauses where the breath is not going in or coming out. And then we just rest with awareness of the body. practice of meditation is a truly loving thing. Loving for ourselves and really for all beings. This practice of stillness helps us be kinder to ourselves and to others. Helps us be more generous of heart and hand. And it also helps us set a sort of example of how one can be, and that we don't need to be driven by craving and clinging. That actually there is another way, there's an alternative. And so in honor of that loving quality, we'll be coming back to different chants that are going to bring it out in different ways. But I wanted to invite people to chant together the Discourse on Love, the Karaniya Metta Sutta. This was originally taught by the Buddha to his monks in order to help them develop friendly relations with a bunch of tree sprites that were in a grove where the monks were meditating, and the tree sprites were kind of bothered by having all these new people here and interrupting their tree sprite activities. So they made all sorts of hideous noises in the middle of the night, and the monks got scared and went and talked to the Buddha about, well, what can we do? And the Buddha said, well, why don't you chant this on a regular basis and really spend your time developing a heart of loving kindness? And they did it, and sure enough, the tree sprites were more than happy to help with the monk's meditation. So, the Discourse on Love. He or she who wants to attain peace should practice being upright, humble, and capable of using loving speech. He or she who will know how to live simply and happily, with senses calmed, without being covetous and carried away by the emotions of the majority. Let him or her not do anything that will be disapproved of by the wise ones. And this is what he or she contemplates. May everyone be happy and safe, and may all hearts be filled with joy. May all beings live in security and in peace, beings who are frail or strong, tall or short, big or small, invisible or visible, near or far away, already born or yet to be born. May all of them dwell in perfect tranquility. Let no one do harm to anyone. Let no one put the life of anyone in danger. Let no one, out of anger or ill will, wish anyone any harm. Just as a mother loves and protects her only child at the risk of her own life, cultivate boundless love to offer to all living beings in the entire cosmos. Let our boundless love pervade the whole universe, above, below, and across. Our love will know no obstacles. Our heart will be absolutely free from hatred and enmity. Whether standing or walking, sitting or lying, as long as we are awake, we should maintain this mindfulness of love in our own heart. This is the noblest way of living. Free from wrong views, greed, and sensual desires, living in beauty and realizing perfect understanding, those who practice boundless love will certainly transcend birth and death. Itena satchavajena soti te hutu sabada. By the firm determination of this truth, may you ever be well. So this morning's event is called the Taste of Liberation, and you might wonder, well, what's that all about? And the main things about liberation are that we are becoming liberated from our ignorance, our tendency to see things in a mistaken way, to think that we're going to get satisfaction out of transitory things, and then our hatred or aversion, which can be very, very subtle. I mean, sometimes when you're meditating and you are kind of in this very, very, very peaceful state, then this thought comes up. It's not a big thought, but you can feel your mind going, "Ugh." And so even that is something that you get to be liberated from in the course of the practice, more and more. And you find yourself more and more at peace. It's like, wow, I can actually have a heart of love more and more often. And I can learn not merely to tolerate, but actually to feel a warmth and opening towards people whose behavior beforehand I'd been very judgmental about and I'd considered to be like really, really heinous. And maybe now in my more aware state, I can see, well, they're doing some unskillful things. Absolutely. It's not the sorts of things that some people are doing are going to lead to suffering for themselves and for others. That is very real. But these people are beings just like ourselves, however misguided they might happen to be, and it can be a very wonderful thing to feel that heart opening, that freedom from the aversion, and then we can learn to be less averse to ourselves. So often we're our own worst critics, and things that we would be fine with in other people. Well, they were having a bad day or whatever. We don't give ourselves that break, and so it's a very nice have that heart opening to ourselves. It's like, wow, actually, I'm a suffering person like all suffering people. I'm a confused person like all confused people. We're all a little bit off, There's some little. Sometimes we have a few screws loose, and that's just how it is. And if we can be kind to ourselves, compassionate to ourselves, patient with ourselves, it's a wonderful thing. And the Buddha started off just like us. It wasn't always a person of ocean-like compassion. He was somebody who had to deal with craving and hatred and ignorance and suffering, being distracted, being scared, and he talks about it all in different suttas about his journey to enlightenment. That it was not like a straight shot. Like, okay, here I go just sitting down, blissing out, and that was it. He spent 6 years of active struggle before he was awakened. So we're getting liberated from our ignorance, our hatred, and our greed. And our greed can be anything from the grossest, money and power and lust of various sorts, but it can also be very, 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 very subtle, and so it can be just being distressed because things are not the way we want them, which is a pretty common thing. and as we continue our path, we find that we're able to let go a little bit more, usually very gradually. It isn't usually like, suddenly, oh, wow, I should let go of everything. Poof, I've let go of everything. And we get more into that contented, still place where it's okay. Even as Shunryu Suzuki Roshi, who is a famous Zen master, said, everything is perfect, but there is room for improvement. So, so you can get more into that place, so we have the three things that we're working on getting liberated from. But how do we do it? And the Buddha had different ways of sort of dividing up the practice, but there are three ways that are all interlocking, all intermingling, supporting each other, and they are practice of generosity, which can be at a very basic level, just feeding somebody, saying a kind word, things like that. These are actually very big things. Just a smile can save a life. It's true, depending on where people are when you encounter them, and then it can continue and deepen in more and more ways until there's the generosity of kind of letting go of everything. When you've let go of everything, you are generously providing a space for others to let go with greater ease and to know it's possible. So there's generosity. There's morality or virtue, where we, on the one side, we hold back from harming others. So we abstain from taking life or harming anyone physically. We abstain from taking what is not given. And we abstain from sexual misconduct. We abstain from wrong speech. It's usually put as false speech, but it includes not only false speech, but also malicious speech. One of the challenges in living life is often people bond around complaining and saying, "Oh, well, that person," and that's not what the Buddha would recommend. So any kind of speech where we're dividing people against each other, or us against them, or you and me against them, or whoever it is, that is not recommended. harsh speech, just speaking roughly to people, and then probably the hardest of them all, which is idle speech. Just yakking, just making sounds with your mouth in order to hear yourself talk, or to fill the silence. Joseph Goldstein, who's a famous meditation teacher, said that he really concentrated on that for a month, and he found out how remarkably little he wound up saying. So something to consider, and then finally there's abstaining from intoxicants that cause heedlessness, because when you get intoxicated, and the Buddha mentioned alcohol because that was around in those days, but that would include drugs, and if you extend it, ignorance and hatred and greed are huge intoxicants. It's like, I don't want to see that. No. And hatred, the anger and we get kind of puffed up and self-righteous and form tribes against each other, things like that. That can be hugely intoxicating, and it just like too much alcohol, it really impairs our ability to think and to manage ourselves. And we do things in a state of anger that we would never do if we were feeling calm. And similarly with greed, that we will, if we want something badly enough, we can get to a place where we just start thinking the rules don't apply to us, and other people don't matter. What I want is what matters. So there's that. And so you can, taking each of those precepts, those guidelines, you can flip them. So there's abstaining from negative things, but there's also engaging in positive things. So being gentle with other people when you have a chance to protect people's safety, people's lives, go ahead, do it. Dwell compassionately with people, and then with not abstaining from taking what is not given, the practice of generosity becomes your default, and the Buddha talks about people dwelling at home, open-handed and generous, delighting in generosity. So that is another positive take on the same thing. The abstaining from sexual misconduct, respecting people's relationships, being supportive and honoring people's relationships, people's bodily integrity. It's really, really important, and often people are not, thinking about that, and they'll kind of get a little wonky there. And then with the speech department, to practice being truthful, really being somebody whose word counts. That's a really refreshing thing. It's a thing that opens people's hearts and gives them a sense of safety around you, and the fact that you don't badmouth anybody. That's huge. You're really demonstrating trustworthiness. And just being gentle in your speech, thinking about, okay, what is a way that even if this is a hard thing that I must say, how can I do this in a gentle way? How can I express appreciation and kindness in the context of maybe having to deliver some news that is not going to be welcome, but is necessary? And then finally, making sure that what you say is to the point and is to an uplifting point. So, so that you're not wasting your words, and you're actually using them very intentionally for the sake of inspiring people, comforting people. That can be a really, really powerful practice. And there's also noble silence. Don't have to say anything. Often silence is like the greatest gift that you can give to somebody else. And so we've talked about generosity, we've talked about morality, and now we come to the third part, which is it's called bhavana, which can be translated meditation. It literally means cultivation, and so we're cultivating positive states of mind, wholesome states of mind. So the states of mind of understanding, awareness, of loving kindness, of compassion, and insight into the nature of reality. The nature of reality, that it is that all conditioned things are impermanent, but actually there's this whole unconditioned nirvana thing that's permanent. It's always been there, always will be there, never not there. That all conditioned things are imperfect. Because they're impermanent, they can't provide the lasting satisfaction that our hearts yearn for. But again, nirvana, perfect, no blemish, and accessible. And then finally, that there's what's called a not self, which is one of the most unique teachings in Buddhism, which is that what we tend to think of as our self, our bodies, our minds, our opinions, is not really under our control. We don't, all this stuff is actually impermanent, imperfect stuff. The things that we can identify are impermanent and imperfect and out of our control. And nirvana it's permanent, it's perfect, and it's also out of our control. But we can place our trust in it, and something very interesting happens. It's like our minds, our bodies, our lives start moving into harmony with nirvana. They become more and more harmonious with this generosity, this morality, this wise, loving awareness, because that's what we really are. It's just that it isn't uniquely the Buddhas or any specific person here. It's actually common to everyone. And so it's you can't really say it's me, it's mine, it's what I am. That and the idea that something is me, it's mine, it's what I am, is actually an obstacle for us. And when we recognize that, and we can start letting go of it just a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, just kind of recognizing, oh wow, there's that kind of me, mine, little pattern. It's been around for a long time, but it's really afflictive. I mean, it really is. Once you start tuning into it, you start realizing how much you've been tormented by this sense of this tight little sense of self. And as you relax into that Buddha mind, Dhamma, kind of letting yourself not have to go to all that trouble of constructing an identity, and just let yourself unbecome what you've been thinking you were, and just do like the Buddha. Become the Dhamma. And things become very pleasant. So that sort of brings us to the next chant. So this is the sutra on the insight that brings us to the other shore. It's known as the Heart Sutra, and it stands for, it's short for Heart of Perfect Wisdom Sutra. And this is from later on, after the Buddha had passed, somewhere around maybe the first century or so, this was composed. And one of the interesting things about this is that this is delivered by the Bodhisattva of compassion, known as Avalokiteshvara, and also has different manifestations, including as Kuan Yin, who is sort of a more feminized version of Avalokiteshvara. But the Sutra on Perfect Wisdom is being delivered by the Bodhisattva of compassion. And in Buddhism, compassion and wisdom are all part of the same package. You cannot separate them. And he is delivering this teaching to Sariputra, who is interestingly the Buddha's disciple who is most famous for his wisdom. And so compassion has a lot to teach the wise side of ourselves. And as I said, inseparable. So let us chant together. Avalokiteshvara, while practicing deeply with the insight that brings us to the other shore, suddenly discovered that all of the 5 skandhas are equally empty, and with this realization, he overcame all ill-being. Listen, Sariputra, this body itself is emptiness, and emptiness itself is this body. This body is not other than emptiness, and emptiness is not other than this body. The same is true of feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. Listen, Sariputra, all phenomena bear the mark of emptiness. Their true nature is the nature of no birth, no death, no being, no non-being, no defilement, no purity, no increasing, no decreasing. That is why in emptiness, body, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness are not separate self-entities. The 18 realms of phenomena, which are the 6 sense organs, the 6 sense objects, and the 6 consciousnesses, are also not separate self-entities. The 12 links of interdependent arising and their extinction are also not separate self-entities. Ill-being, the causes of ill-being, the end of ill-being, the path, insight, and attainment are also not separate self-entities. Whoever can see this no longer needs anything to attain. Bodhisattvas who practice the insight that brings us to the other shore see no more obstacles in their mind, and because there are no more obstacles in their mind, they can overcome all fear, destroy all wrong perceptions, and realize perfect nirvana. All Buddhas in the past, present, and future, by practicing the insight that brings us to the other shore, are all capable of attaining authentic and perfect enlightenment. Therefore, Sariputra, it should be known that the insight that brings us to the other shore is a great mantra, the most illuminating mantra, the highest mantra, a mantra beyond compare, the true wisdom that has the power to put an end to all kinds of suffering. Therefore, let us proclaim a mantra to praise the insight that brings us to the other shore. Gatte, gatte, para gatte, parasam gatte, bodhisvaha. Gatte, gatte, para gatte, parasam gatte, bodhisvaha. Gatte, gatte, para gatte, parasam gatte, bodhisvaha. I'd like to give people a moment to just sink into that awareness that may have found itself revealing itself to you. We'll take 10 minutes of meditation. would like to chant together something that I learned from Bhante Gunaratna, also known as Bhante G, who's a Sri Lankan monk from Washington, D.C., or that was where I met him. And he developed this particular chant, and there's a fair amount of repetition. If we do it all, it could take a long time. So where it says "May our teachers," we'll just know that we're including all the other things that are present in the chant. Okay. May we be well, happy and peaceful. May no harm come to me. May we always meet with spiritual success. May we also have patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet and overcome inevitable difficulties, problems, and failures in life. May we always rise above them with morality, integrity, forgiveness, compassion, mindfulness, and wisdom. May our parents be well, happy, and peaceful. May no harm come to them. May they always meet with spiritual success. May they also have patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet and overcome inevitable difficulties, problems, and failures in life. May they always rise above them with morality, integrity, forgiveness, compassion, mindfulness, and wisdom. May our teachers, may our relatives, may our friends, may all indifferent persons, may all unfriendly persons, may all living beings be well, happy, and peaceful. May no harm come to them. May they always meet with spiritual success. May they also have patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet and overcome inevitable difficulties, problems, and failures in life. May they always rise above them with morality, integrity, forgiveness, compassion, mindfulness, and wisdom. And I would like to proceed a little bit more with the chanting with Hakuin's Song of Zazen. Hakuin was a great Japanese meditation master, and he did this just exquisite celebration of meditation. So I want to share that with you. All sentient beings are essentially Buddhas. As with water and ice, there is no ice without water. Apart from sentient beings, there are no Buddhas. Not knowing how close the truth is, we seek it far away. What a pity. We are like one who in the midst of water cries out desperately in thirst. We are like the son of a rich man who wandered away among the poor. The reason we transmigrate through the 6 realms is because we are lost in the darkness of ignorance. Going further and further astray in the darkness, how can we ever be free from birth and death? As for the meditative unification of the universal vehicle, there are no words to praise it fully. The 6 perfections, such as giving, maintaining the precepts, and various other good deeds, like invoking the Buddha's name, repentance, and spiritual training, all finally return to this. Even those who have experienced it for only a single sitting will see all karma erased. Nowhere will they find evil paths, and the Pure Land will not be far away. If we listen even once with open heart to this truth, then praise it and gladly embrace it, how much more so then if on reflecting within ourselves we directly realize self-nature, giving proof to the truth that self-nature is no nature. We will have gone far beyond idle speculation.
The gate of the oneness of cause and effect is thereby opened, and not two, not three, straight ahead runs the way. Realizing the form of no form as form, whether going or returning, we cannot be any place else. Realizing the thought of no thought as thought, whether singing or dancing, we are the voice of the Dhamma. How vast and wide is the unobstructed sky of Samadhi. May all desires and How bright and clear the perfect moonlight of the fourfold wisdom. At this moment, what more need we seek? As the eternal tranquility of truth reveals itself to us, this very place is the land of lotuses, and this very body is the body of the Buddha. I'd just like to give people a moment to drink that in. And before Mary gives the benediction, I wanted to just continue with the last two chants, reflections on universal well-being and reflections on sharing blessings. Now let us chant the reflections on universal well-being. May I abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being in myself. May everyone abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all beings be released from all suffering, and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. When they act upon intention, all beings are the owners of their action and inherit its results. Their future is born from such action, companion to such action, and its results will be their home. All actions with intention, be they skillful or harmful, of such acts they will be the heirs. Through the goodness that arises from my practice, may my spiritual teachers and guides of great virtue, my mother, my father, and my relatives, the sun and the moon, and all virtuous leaders of the world, may the Brahmas and Maras, celestial beings, guardian spirits of the earth, and the Lord of Death, may those who are friendly, indifferent, or hostile, may all beings receive the blessings of my life. May they soon attain the threefold bliss and realize the deathless. Through the goodness that arises from my practice and through this act of sharing, may all desires and attachments quickly cease and all harmful states of mind, until I realize Nibbana. In every kind of birth, may I have an upright mind with mindfulness and wisdom, austerity and vigor. May the forces of delusion not take hold nor weaken my resolve. The Buddha is my excellent refuge. Unsurpassed is the protection of the Dhamma. The Buddha is my noble guide. The Sangha is my supreme support. Through the supreme power of all these, may darkness and delusion be dispelled.
Let's take a moment with our eyes closed and our bodies and minds and hearts fully aware. We appreciate the connection to these teachings, to Buddha nature, and to each one of us here in this room, to the Sangha, to the practice of the path that leads to liberation. We leave today with our hearts full, our minds active in stillness. We take home these sheets of paper and read the words of wisdom throughout the day or the week or the month or into the future. We hold these thoughts carefully and learn from them, grow from them, transform from them, and really bless the world with them. We are generous in our intentions. We are kind in our speech. We live the path of wisdom and compassion with hearts and minds and bodies that practice in this way that brings good to others and to ourselves. We are grateful. We go home or to our next destination in safety and peace, and we protect ourselves and others, not in fear and worry and anxious conflict, but in love and compassion and joining into the oneness of it all. I release these words into the law of manifestation, and together we say, and so it is.